Elementor is a very powerful software. It has many features that help you achieve awesome looking websites. But with this comes complexity because there are so many settings that you need to get right in order for you to achieve this. So if you're a beginner, this could be overwhelming. So in this video, I want to show you where things are, how to set your website up, saving you many hours on YouTube, trying to work out where things are. So this is an Elementor for Beginners guide. So the first thing you want to do when you load up Elementor is to come over here to your settings. So I'm going to come over here, click on settings. We're going to take a look here at features. So this is where all the upcoming features are. And this page is very important because if you enable some of these features, you are basically working with the future of how Elementor is going to work. For example, here we have a feature called Flexbox Container. This, in my opinion, is the future of web design because this will allow you to build complex layouts which are faster because we are doing away with all the columns and rows. Okay, so let's continue on. So once you get to this page, you want to make sure you just activate everything really because you're going to be taking a look at nested elements, edit top bar, lazy load background images. If you want to know what these things are, you can just read over here. But as you can see, in my case, everything is activated, which is pretty cool because Elementor is a plugin and the Pro is a plugin as well. So by default, it comes in with the WordPress theme. And this is not very powerful, not very good. So let's install the free Hello theme from Elementor as well. It's very lightweight, very fast. It doesn't have any complexities. So let's take a look at how we can install it. So all you need to do is to come over here to Appearance, click on Themes, and then you want to search for the theme. So to add yours, because by default, this one here will be loaded up, you'll just come over here, click on Add New, and then on the top right, just search for Hello Theme. And in most cases, you're just going to see this anyway. So once you see this, you want to click on Activate and then Install. So once you've done this, you're pretty much close to getting up and running. Okay, so the next step is to make further settings. So let's go ahead and see what we need to do. So I'm going to click here on Add New to add a brand new page. And we're just going to call this page Settings. We're going to click on Publish. And once we've published this page, you notice that pretty much nothing is happening. By default, we're going to have the WordPress editor, but this is not what we want. Ideally, we want to edit with Elementor. So you want to come over here to the top and click on Edit with Elementor. So although we are on a page where we can start adding all our customizations and our designs, this page is also very powerful because it allows us to make further settings. Now let me show you how. So if I come over here to the top, you're going to notice that we have site settings. So if I click here, I can now go in and set my global colors. And this is very important because when you design a website, you want to add your branding colors so that as you're designing, you can start adding your colors and it just makes the whole design process much easier. All right, so let's take a look. I'm going to click here and on my colors, and these are my colors. But you can go in and change these colors to what matches your brand. And the cool thing is you can add more colors here. So let's say I want to add another color. I can name it. So let's say this is my transparent background. I can just name it transparent. And then I'll click over here, drag the slider all the way down, and then click on Save Changes. Now let's say I want to add more colors. All I have to do is to come into this one here, for example, make some changes to it. Let's say it's going to be that bright green as my accent color. I can click on Save Changes. Now notice what happens when I start working on this page. So now that I've added my colors, let me just close out of here and pretend that all my colors are now in place and I'm ready to now start to design my website. Okay, so if I click on this plus button here, you're going to notice that when I start to add elements, I'm going to click on this plus button to add my element. So let's say I'm just going to add some text. Now, when I go into style, I want you to take a look at the colors here. If I click on global, you notice that my transparent color that I had is now added here, which makes it very easy for me to add it whenever I need it as I'm designing my website. And this is why this is very important for me to add all my colors. Now, this is my new updated color. So if I just click on that, you notice that this has been updated as well. Okay, I think I've moved a few steps forward here. Let's go back to our settings page and let me show you more settings. So let's say we've done our global colors here. We're happy with that. The next step now is to come over here to your global fonts, because You don't want to go in and set your fonts every single time you're designing your website. This is going to be time consuming, and this is a recipe for disaster because you're going to have a website with different types of sizes, font sizes, and so on. So making sure that you set them globally is a very, very good thing. So over here, you want to come in and set your primary font. So over here we have Roboto, so I can just change this to a different font. And the cool thing here is Elementor uses Google Fonts, so which means I can just go in and search for the font that I want. And there's a ton of them. So let's say I want this to be Poppins. I can set it like that. And you notice that this has updated. I can now click on Save Changes. You can go in and add your secondary font, your text, your accent, and so on. And you can also add other styles. So let's say this is Italist and you want to use it on a special occasion in your web design process. You can name it here. And then as you're designing your website, you can easily see it in the drop-down settings. Okay, so let's say all our site settings are done and we are pretty much happy with that. Now we need to take a look at our theme style. So there's two options here. You can set your fonts in the theme or you can set it in the builder. I prefer setting everything in the builder. So this is where now you can come in and set your H1 typography. So this is your heading 1. You can set your color and notice that I have my primary color here. So I can just set it. On my typography here, I can just go in, choose my primary because that's the primary font that I chose. And then over here, I can add even more settings, colors for H2 and so on. So this just makes the design process very, very easy. So you want to do the same thing for the buttons. And if there's any settings for the images, you can go in and do that. But normally on the images, I don't do anything unless you're building a black and white website, which has black and white images. And this is where you can go in and set that, but you don't really need to do that. Okay. Now moving on, we also have our site identity. So you want to come over here. And in my case here, it's called Elementor AI. And I can just add a short description here. So I'm going to say make awesome websites. I can add my site logo here, which is pretty cool because you don't want to waste time trying to upload your logo on different locations. And also you can add your favicon. And this is 512 by 512. So once you've done your site settings, we can go to our background. But you know what? With the background, don't mess with that. Just leave it as it is. On the layout here, you can decide how you want this to be. If you want this to be a specific 1140, that's pretty cool. But if you want to work in percentages, you can just set it over here. And let's say you want your width to be, let's say 80%. This is where you set it. And basically that's going to be the size you're going to have every time you're building your website. So as you can see, the site settings panel is very, very important. A lot of beginners just go in and start designing their website, and that doesn't work well because you're not going to remember every single setting as you're designing your website. It's almost impossible. Even the colors. How are you going to remember the hexadecimal value of the color that you used on the home page? And then now let's say you're on the about page. It's going to be very difficult. So setting everything here is very, very important. And this ensures that you have a good working website, which is consistent. On this settings page, you also want to go into integration. So let's say you want to integrate, let's say with your Facebook ID, you can just add it over here. If you use MailChimp, you can add your API key over here. The reason why you're doing this is, let's say, for example, you want to build an opt-in page and you want to automatically add people that opt into that page onto your email list, then this will just make the process very, very easy because it's already integrated. So that's the whole point of this page here. Next, you can see all these are the different services, ConvertKit, MailerLite, and so on. But what I really like here is the Stripe API keys. Now, what's really cool about Stripe is if you add your API key here, you can just add your products on any page as you're designing it. And as soon as someone clicks on that Stripe button, it then takes them to the page to make a payment. And pretty much you've turned your website into an e-commerce website with just one integration. Really, really awesome. There's also one setting here which is very, very important. So as you can see, my page here is named settings. Maybe we don't want this. You can just come over here to page settings, and these settings are specific for this actual page. So I can come over here and say hide title. I can also do a few things. I can go in here and say, okay, I want to go to page layout. Let's say I don't want a header and a footer. I can just go in here and say Elementor canvas, and pretty much my header and footer goes away because this is going to work as maybe an opt-in page. So that settings button is very, very important because this is where you can come in and do all your settings. So as you're designing your site, chances are you want to take a look and see what it looks like on mobile devices. This is where you can click on this little icon here and you can adjust your size for whatever layout that you want. This one here is for mobile. So you can actually come over here, click on this pencil icon, and you can change the size and so on, or even the color for that matter. So as you can see, this pretty much is what you need to do to set up before you can actually get up and running with Elementor. Now, let me show you how to get all your elements onto your page as you're designing. Now, the most important thing here is whatever page you're going to design or whatever website you're going to design from this moment onwards needs to use Flexbox out of the box, because that's the way forward and this is the future of web design. So let me show you how to get this up and running. If you want to add your container, you just click on this plus button and this is our container. There's different layouts here. So usually what I'll do, depending on what I need to design, I'll just click on this one. Now you're going to also notice that you have this plus button here. It does the same job as the plus button here on the top. Basically, this adds our elements. So if I click here, you notice that now it's giving me my elements that I can add onto this container. If I click on this plus button, it pretty much does the same thing. Okay, so let's say I want to add a bit of text. I can just drag and drop it like that. And if you want to customize this, click on the pencil icon. And now you have access to the actual content itself. So let's say I want to get rid of a bit of this text. I can just do that. And in real time, this is updating. If I want to style this, all I need to do is to come to the Style tab. This is where I can change the color. I can click on this gear icon. I can choose my primary color here. Or if I need to add a brand new color, I can just click in this area here, change that color to a darker color. If I need to go in and change the size, I can just click over here and override what I have here in my global settings. So you can see here now, this is now way massive, and I can change my font here to a different font if I need to. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this is because I want you to see where all the settings are. If you want to add letter spacing, you can just do that. And now you start to design a custom layout with your fonts. Okay. Now, what's cool is, let's say you've designed this, you're pretty happy with that, and you really want to keep this design and use it later on. What you can do is to right click, and then over here on the bottom, you can save it as global, so that next time you start designing a new page, you can just access the same style, same design from the global palette, from the global place, and then you just add it onto your website. And you can do this with pretty much any element in Elementor. Okay, so let's continue on. You can give it a name here. So let's call this Mac 1, like that. Click on save. And now you notice that we have Mac 1 here in our global. So if I delete that, and let's say I'm working on a brand new page, I can just click on this plus button here, add my container, and then I can say, you know what, I need something from my global here on my elements. So if I click on this plus button, I'm ready to add an element here. So let's say this time I'm adding an image like that. I'm gonna click here, find my image. So let's say this is the image I'm gonna work with. I'm gonna select that, and then I need to add some text. And then I just remember, okay, click on this plus button to add my element, boom, like that. But this time I want to go to my global because that's where my style is going to be. I can click over here, drag and drop it. And just like that, I've added my global. The cool thing is I can also override my design on this item here. So I can unlink from global and then start designing this. So let's say I want to make the text a bit smaller. I can just come over here, make it smaller. And for the letter spacing, I can just go in and remove that, set this to 0 as the standard. And as I'm designing this, maybe I come over here. I want to add that global item again. I can just drag and drop it. But I want you to notice that this here has not changed. I started off with the global, then customized it a little bit, but my global still stays the same. And that is what you need to do if you want to move away from the global style itself and pretty much leave everything intact. So this is going to enable you to design your websites faster, because with all your globals there, you can just drag drop it as you're designing, saving you time to redesign each item over and over again. Now, if you are using Elementor Basic, you're not going to have all these pro items here, and it's always very important that you use the pro version, and I highly recommend you use the pro version because it has all the extra features which allows you to design complex layouts. At any point, if you want to, let's say, design your website from templates that are already there in Elementor, this is also another way you can do that. I'm going to click here on this button here, and it's going to take me to my library. So this is where I can use this as my starting point. So if you click here on this drop down, it will give you all the pages. So let's say I want to add a featured area. I can just choose featured. Oh, it says I haven't saved any templates yet. Let's refresh this and see what happens. So sometimes you need to go in here and refresh this so that you have all the latest templates here from Elementor. So with this setup now, I can pretty much choose any layout I want. And some of these are going to be labeled Pro. So if you are using Pro, you can just use that. But the cool thing is I can just go ahead and add that. Let's say that is what I need to use. And then all I have to do is to go in and change the background. So I'm going to come over here, go to style, and then I'm going to come over here to my global item and choose my background color. So let's say that's the background I want to use. I can go with that, or I can go with something a bit lighter. Maybe that should work. But this has saved us a lot of time. I mean, as you can see, I didn't need to go in and center all my text and making sure that everything is looking right. So this was done for me already. If you want to save all your designs to the library, you can also do the same as well. And let me show you quickly how to do that. So over here, if you want to save, let's say this layout here, I can just right click and then click on Save as Template. Do that, save it. Next time I want to design a part of my website, and let's just do this quickly. Let's say I close out of here and I need to add my template. I can just click here on Add Template, My Templates, and this is where it's going to be. So this is how you get up and running with Elementor. This is how you set up your things first before you actually start designing your website. And pretty much this is where things are. In future videos, I'll also be talking about how to design your website super fast using these templates. So be sure to subscribe. And if you haven't purchased Elementor yet, I have a link in the video description below. If you purchase it using my link, that'll be really awesome. It supports the channel. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.